Okay, let me check my phone and make sure that we are indeed up and running here. Yes, we are. Hey, Crystal Lawler, thank you for watching.
They're already tuning in.
Already.
Yes. All right, everybody, welcome to Hollywood Kitchen. We are once again live and once again at the home of my friend Danny Miller, his beautiful historic 1909 house. We've got Kenton Bymaster today of Warner Brothers. Yes, we bow and scrape to Kenton's awesomeness. And we're really excited. This is a Thanksgiving episode, and we're going to talk all about Betty. And I love Betty. She's long been on my list. So this episode is a long time coming. And when I found the Cranberry Mousse episode, which we'll talk about in a minute, I couldn't resist doing a Thanksgiving Bette Davis. So, Kenton, if someone had lived under a rock and never, ever heard of Bette Davis, I don't know how that could even be a thing.
They shouldn't be allowed to live.
Right?
Go back under that rock. Stay there.
What would you, if someone landed from another planet and was like, who is this Bette Davis? What would you tell them?
I would say she's one of the 20th century's greatest actresses. I mean, she was a huge star, especially at Warner Brothers. I mean, they used to call her the fifth Warner Brother. I mean, some of her movies are some of the biggest classics, in Hollywood. So she's just a great actress from the start of her career all the way to the end. She did it her way. So,
and I would say she's such a memorable personality too. The interviews she gives, the way she acts, the way she does. She's just a total firecracker of a human being. It seems
she's a total Aries. So yeah, that's what I would say. She's just one of the greatest actresses that Hollywood ever produced. I'd say, especially in the golden age.
I tend to agree, absolutely. Well, when we were looking through the recipes, I want to preface that. First off, thank you to Anna Rowland for going to the library in Austin, Texas, and finding this extremely rare cookbook that has this recipe. Now, I want to preface, though, it's also the same cookbook that yielded the great misfire of the Carole Lombard cherry tart, which my friends mistook for a pizza that I burned. So there were some problems here with the recipe, although we worked them out. Danny, do you want to talk about what we went through in this process here?
Yes, like the lady herself, the recipe was a little hard to crack, but also was very simple, very New England. And we all know Bette Davis always talked about how she was a Yankee from Lowell, Massachusetts. But it was an interesting recipe, and I've made it now in the past few days 3 times. And I think now that I've already made it 3 times, I'm going to figure out how to make it better the next time, because so you start with lovely raw cranberries. Are cranberries grown in New England? Is that where they're from?
I'm not sure. I would think so.
It seems like a New England thing.
Right.
You need it some cold anyway, and you cook them with some water. You'll see in the recipe, and then until they're soft, about 15 minutes, and then it says press through a potato ricer. Well, as luck would have it, because I like to cook, and years ago I remember when I got it, I have a potato ricer. It's this heavy thing you could kill an intruder with. But I got confused. It doesn't say this, but in my head, the first time I made it a few days ago, so I put the cooked cranberries through here, and then I thought, okay, what comes out is what you keep. And then I threw away the rest, which was all the pulp and everything. Well, no, and then I'm reading there should be 1 1/4 cups of pulp. I had like 1/4 cup of syrup. So I made it again, and then I just kept some of the pulp, and then the one we're gonna eat today, I used all the pulp. And then I was trying it this morning and asked my son, like, is there a lot of like skins in your mouth or something? Is that unpleasant? Well, no, it's kind of good. He likes everything. But anyway, then you put some sugar in it, a 1 1/4 cup of sugar, and you cook it for 10 minutes. You end up, and then you put it in the refrigerator. You have to cool it. That's why I've done this part in advance. In my lovely green glass antique measuring cup, you end up with this like jelly. And this does include all the pulp. And I think it's supposed to. And then So she has some crazy stuff in here that's classic. This is from the early 30s,
This is
right?
1933, by the way. From this
Even
novel,
before
so-
A Human Bondage. So she,
Yeah.
she was just she
Yeah.
was making weird movies. I mean, good ones that we like too. But
Very early on.
so she had this thing about chilled cream in bowl surrounded by chipped ice and salt. I mean, those of us who've made ice cream the old-fashioned way, but this is not ice cream. So
This
like
is an ice cream.
that was to me just like nonsense. Ignore. And when you make a lot of these old recipes, you learn what to ignore.
That's just to thicken it up, I guess.
I
maybe.
guess, and to keep it really cold.
It seems pretty thick already.
So yeah, and then there's a strange thing so you whip the cream, there's a cup of cream, and then you add a quarter cup of orange juice and 2 teaspoons of lemon juice, which Carrie and I were like, oh, that's odd to add all that acid to whipped cream, that's unusual. And in retrospect, because a lot of these recipes are like, oh, that's so sweet. This, and it's classic Bette Davis to me, it's like almost not sweet enough. I think the fourth time I make it, I may add some additional sugar to the whipped cream, because it's not that sweet. I don't know, you'll see when you taste it. And then, oh, by the way, this is Rosemary's Bowl that I got at the Rosemary Sally Rogers estate sale. I love collecting kitchen things from the stars. All of our silverware today will be from the 1939 World's Fair that I wonder if Bette Davis attended.
She was making a lot of movies that year, so I don't know what she had.
Right.
But
Maybe not, unless there was some promotional things to
Her best movies. too.
Yeah.
She won her Oscar that year for the year before, right?
Yeah.
I mean, her second Oscar.
exactly.
Then you're gonna fold it together, the cranberry jelly-ish thing and the whipped cream.
Now, on the instructions, it said to put it in a mold, which Danny and I were talking about that, and we're like, how can we do that? Because there's no gelatin in it, and you would need gelatin to hold
Right.
into the mold.
Yeah,
So Danny very cleverly decided to pour this in these beautiful glasses instead.
yeah, I've done enough Hollywood kitchens to, sometimes we try it, like, oh, maybe it'll work. And now we know enough to know that, why create a disaster? That is not gonna unmold.
Exactly.
So instead,
Why do that to ourselves?
we have these lovely little glasses of perhaps too much cranberry.
I'm gonna hold this up close so people can see it live.
It's very pretty. It does
Yeah,
have
that's
this pulp in there. It's healthy. It's health food.
See how nice that looks?
So here's your 1939 World's Fair spoon. You can try it for Betty.
Okay, as we toast Betty with our cranberry mousse, before you take a bite, what was your favorite line from a Bette Davis film?
Well, mine is from All About Eve, but it's nothing about seatbelts. It's when she's fighting with Lloyd, the writer, in the theater after she misses Marilyn Monroe's audition. And she's talking about the great playwrights of the past and how much better they were than him. And he says, well, they have an advantage. They've been dead for 300 years. And she just leans over and in the best line delivery I've literally ever heard in my life says, all writers should be dead for 300 years. That's my favorite.
I think my favorite is from the 1952 film The Star, where she grabs the Academy Award, plucks it in the car, and says, "Come on, Oscar, let's you and me get drunk."
I have two, probably her campiest lines were, I'd like to kiss you, but I just washed my hair from
Yes.
Cabin in the Cotton,
Yes.
or What a Dump from Beyond the Forest.
Mm.
Those she was remembered for,
So
Yeah.
to Betty,
To Betty.
Happy
I love you.
happy Thanksgiving. Mm.
See, not too sweet. Probably use a little more.
Oh, it's not
Yeah.
bad.
It's not that sweet. And the other night when Danny and I were
It's got the
making
tartness.
this,
Mhm,
we put chocolate chips in it
that helps.
and having the chocolate. Like I would recommend maybe doing chocolate shavings on it next time.
It's good.
Mm.
Because when I first read it, oh, is this a side dish like cranberry? But no, I mean, it has to be a dessert, right?
Yeah, I would think so.
Good, the mint's nice.
Thank you, Betty.
Mm.
Mm.
I saw one of her friends say in an interview, obviously many years ago, because we always wonder, did they really make these things? I just have a feeling she really did. But this person said, not very gallantly, I think it was right after she died, she fancied herself a great cook, but she really was not. So, I mean, I don't want to say anything mean, but I mean, I think like her personality and like her, I think she liked just simple. There's not many ingredients here. You look up cranberry mousse online, and it is the gelatin and all the stuff. This is like cranberries, whipped cream. You're done. So, it kind of reminds me of her personality.
She was very straightforward, no fuss. So, Kenton, when did you first hear about Bette Davis? Like, what was your first I don't know what the word awakening is the right word, but what was your first exposure to
I would
Betty?
say probably as a kid, I remember whatever happened to Baby Jane, probably more than anything. Because we used to have a horror host locally in Ohio, Sammy Terry. He used to host all the like classic, horror movies and stuff like that. I remember seeing whatever happened to Baby Jane on that. So that was probably my first exposure to Betty and Joan. So, and then just as my curiosity and love of movies came along, it's just like you just soak up all you can, All About Eve and like all the Warner classics.
Oh yeah.
So
You know what my intro was? Because it's an unusual one. The Warner Brothers musical review, which is already weird, Thank Your Lucky Stars. The first thing I remember seeing her in is that, where she sings that great song, They're Either Too Young or Too Old. And I'm like, she's a musical star, because I'd seen all the MGM reviews. Like, no, I don't think she ever made an actual musical, did she?
I think that's the only.
But she's great in it.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
I could still sing the whole thing by heart, and she. I'll do that after the show.
Okay.
But then, certainly, she's like 4 different careers that I'm sure you could talk about better, but again, for me, I don't think there's a better performance on the planet than Marco Channing in All About Eve. I just don't.
Oh yeah.
Well, my first exposure to her, I had a godmother named Granny Joyce. She was an Alabama Southern Belle, had a whole room of Gone with the Wind stuff in her house. And I used to stay with her after school because both my parents worked. And Granny Joyce and I would watch classic movies. And of course, we watched Gone with the Wind. And one day she told me she had another Southern Belle movie I should really see. And she put on Jezebel. And that was my first exposure to Betty. And that literally led me to having a whole wall of Bette Davis in my room growing up, obsessed with Bette Davis. And then, of course, that led me down the rabbit hole of Jezebel, Dark Victory, now Voyager, All About Eve. I mean, she had a run of just incredible films.
Yeah. Thank God that they released all of that stuff in the 90s on VHS. I mean, I was going to the video store constantly, and it's like, oh, they put out another 5 Bette Davis movies or whatever.
Well,
so.
thank God for TCM, because when I was little, we had a theater that showed a double feature every day that changed. It was amazing. And that's where I first saw it, because, where else could you see these things back then before videotapes?
Right, yeah. I never had a revival house to go to, but I just remember seeing a lot of things on TV, Sunday mornings and stuff. I remember seeing Lifeboat for the first time. I think that was the first Hitchcock movie that I ever saw.
Oh, wow.
When I was maybe in like 6th grade or something like that. But I remember being impressed by it. It's like that's what started the whole love of movies, I think, for me.
Since you mentioned Gone with the Wind, can I ask Kenton, maybe he knows the answer, because there's 2 Gone with the Wind mythology things about Bette Davis. One that she said herself, that Jack Warner bought it for her, but it was right after her big court case, which we can talk about later. And he said, "Oh, I got this project for you, this book written by Margaret Mitchell." She said, "Oh, I bet it's a pit." And she walked out of the office and then went on suspension. And then the second one is that Selznick did want her, but he wanted Errol Flynn, and she didn't think he would be a good Rhett. I just always wonder if either of those are
They
true.
did a movie together, but right before that, I think.
The Private Lives of Elizabeth
Right.
Mosse.
And she loved him, but she just didn't think he could be Rhett Butler.
Well, I'd always heard that she desperately wanted the role, and Jezebel was sort of considered something of an audition. But then Warner's wouldn't loan Betty to Selznick for the movie. And I don't think Gable was a fan of hers either. I don't think they would have had.
They don't seem like they would have the chemistry.
No, not at all.
Yeah. I had never heard that. I mean, I always kind of thought that was a Selznick thing from the get-go, that he had owned that. The property.
Yeah, I don't know if the Warner thing is even true, although it's probably, I know people did pass on it, because like, who wants a movie about the Civil War?
Right, yeah.
And I worship her in Jezebel, but no, that was enough.
Vivian Leigh was meant to have that role.
Yeah.
Which doesn't strike me dead for saying that. But one thing I admire about Betty is her knowing she wanted great scripts. She wasn't happy with the role she was getting. And for a lot of the players, it would have been very easy for them to just, hey, I should just keep my mouth shut and be grateful I have a movie contract at all.
Right.
And Betty was like, no, I'm never going to achieve what I want without better scripts. And she fought so hard to just walk out on her contract in the middle of the Great Depression and go to England and sue Warner Brothers. that took some serious guts of steel to do that.
Yeah, sure.
Everyone trying to talk her out of it.
Yeah.
She lost, as we know, and Olivia de Havilland later took it up and won, which Betty gives her a lot of credit for, but I'm not sure that would have happened without Bette Davis's courage first.
Right.
She was the crack in the dam.
She really was.
And she, as she herself said in some of the documentaries, she lost the battle, but she won the war. Because when she got back, I think that they got the point.
Right.
And then what I've never understood about this is why, if you're running a studio and you need to make money, why wouldn't you want great scripts and great movies that people will want to see to make money? Like, to me, it was in their best
Yeah.
interest all along to give her great material, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
And I mean, of course, now looking at some of her, which she herself called trash roles, are fun and we love them. But she was getting asked to do a lot of, junk. And so thank God that when she came back, instead of punishing her because she lost the case, they realized, oh, she really does have something here. And then she got not all, but so many, as you said, amazing roles.
I think Warner Brothers too, there's like a history of them when they are kind of like trying to ease somebody out. They just start giving them the bad stuff. And it's like, either they're gonna leave or, they're just gonna continue on and it's not gonna be great for their career. I think Bette Davis, Joan, the same thing. They started giving her, inferior scripts. And so that's why they all left. I have a poster actually for Beyond the Forest, which is her last, which I'll show in a little bit, but she didn't want to do that film, but I think she just, it was a means to an end by that time. It's like, I knew that like, this is the end of I'll finally get out from under the Warner thumb or whatever. And then it's like, right after that, she was All About Eve. So it's like, talking about a great resurgence and comeback. So.
Ken and I were talking about Beyond the Forest before we went on camera, and I was telling him, I saw a print of Beyond the Forest from our mutual colleague and friend Mark Vieira. And one thing that struck me about it, it's almost like Betty decided to throw a grenade into the middle of that movie. It's also, saying, oh, they chewed the scenery. I would argue Betty ripped down the scenery, put it in a blender, hit the puree button, took the blender and threw the contents all over the wall.
And broke the glass.
And broke the glass and then stormed out. I mean, that's pretty much how badly she decided to openly torpedo that movie.
But now that's like a camp classic. I mean, everybody talks about the campy fun of that movie.
It's never gotten a DVD release.
I actually, from our mutual friend Mark Vieira, from what I've heard, it's the music rights to the song Chicago.
Oh, no.
And because that song is throughout that movie,
Oh, you can't
it's
undo
like, is
that.
that Berlin? Is that an Irving Berlin song? I'm not really sure who wrote that, but their estate. That's the thing. Music rights are like such a snag in so many things. A couple of years ago, the department I work in,
And Warner Brothers, if that hasn't been.
Yes.
clear.
audio mastering, archival mastering as well. But we took on all of the Baywatch every season and replaced all the music.
Oh, because otherwise
Because
it
the
couldn't be
person
released.
that did the original music had the rights and he wouldn't give it up to, so that they wouldn't be able to syndicate it. So they literally went in and they just took the dialogue and the effects tracks and added the new music. And
Wow.
So, I mean, things like that can be, worked around, but it's like, how can they do that with Beyond the Forest? I mean, the song Chicago is such a big part of the whole thing because he wants to go to Chicago so bad. So,
And it told me that something like that is preventing the world from enjoying the
Right.
most explosively destructive performance perhaps in movie history. Oh, that's a crime and shame.
you never know. One day it may come out. I mean, I feel like they haven't even shown it on TCM in a long time.
No.
And that's the last time I saw it was probably on TCM.
Oh, come on, American Cinematheque. We need that at the Aero Theater next month.
Right.
If I didn't know Mark Vieira and get to see his print, I wouldn't have seen it because it's
Right.
a hard movie to see.
Right.
You know what? One of Betty's early movies that I personally am a fan of is Ex-Lady. And I know she
That's
probably
pre-code.
hated that movie, I'm sure, but it's a pre-code. And she is a woman who is a professional. She's a professional illustrator. She fights to get equal pay to her talent and skill. She has a boyfriend. She doesn't want to get married, and they openly live together. And this is 1933, so this is like very
So awesome.
risque. And she wears these gorgeous Ori Kelly gowns. It's very Art Deco. And honestly, if you watch it from a modern lens, like I didn't see that movie until just a few years back. I was blown away by how fresh and modern it felt.
Oh, yeah.
So I know she disavowed it or something, but I think honestly, that movie plays far better than she ever could have imagined today. You know, and it's a real gem. It's in one of the Forbidden Hollywood pre-code
I
box
just remember
sets.
the gorgeous poster from.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's to me, that's one of my favorite early ones. And I recently watched Kid Galahad on TCM with her and Edward G. Robinson.
I think I
And-
saw part of that. It was on last week or the week.
Yeah, it was so good. And I hadn't seen that one for somehow that movie escaped my grasp until now. But she's wonderful in that film. So good. Like even in a lesser vehicle, she still shines.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, that's the thing about the studio system. It's like, what a great training ground. I mean, maybe your script or your story's not that great, but you're learning your craft. I mean, and that's how they did it. You know, it's like maybe it's not the best picture in the world, but maybe the next one. You know,
Would
and it's
be.
like,
And it's funny about those early films because in later life she always talked about how she arrived in 1930 and Jean Harlow and all these people, and she was considered not at all like traditionally movie star beautiful by any means by anyone back then. Of course, we look at it now and we think, oh my God, she was gorgeous in some of those early movies. But despite that, she just kept, soldiering through and ended up, getting fantastic parts after fighting for them. I believe her when she said many times later on, it was never about the money. She didn't care about the money. She was cared about the long-term career. And she knew that if she got that, the money would come. Whereas some stars were like, no, I want a better dressing room. I want a bigger salary. She didn't care. She wanted the good directors and the good parts.
Well, one thing that I also love about Betty was Of Human Bondage is a brutal film, obviously. But there's so few stars that would have dared to look as horrific as she looked in that film. Or even
Very few.
I mean, that could have been career suicide, possibly.
right.
But she saw that as an opportunity. And that's another one where she just devours everything in sight on film.
Now, wasn't that one that Warner Brothers they kind of loaned her out as a
They loaned her
punishment
out,
or whatever, right?
yeah.
They weren't really
Oh, it's like it
keen
happened.
on doing all that stuff.
And she didn't get a nomination. She was a write-in choice for the Oscars that year. And she was really
Wow.
upset about it too, because she felt she deserved an Oscar for that.
Well, and then won the next year for a film people say that's for Of Human Bondage.
Yes.
That's so crazy.
Dangerous is not a great movie, but she's great in it,
Mhm.
and undeniably so.
Well, that's the one thing about her. It's like whenever she's on camera, you can't take your eyes off of her. She's
Oh yeah.
a force. I mean,
And she never let go of that willingness to, look horrendous if the part, I remember hearing her talk about whatever happened to Baby Jane, interviews from the time, and she's like, I may have gone too far. Like, her daughter would see her and like, oh my God, because it's a horror show, but I love her for doing it and made the part.
Yes, and another one that falls into that category is Marked Woman. That's a Betty film I don't think gets enough love. I adore that movie. Every time TCM shows it, I'm like, I have to sit down and watch Marked Woman.
yeah,
You know?
that's a great one.
The clip joint hostess, which we all know what that means.
Right.
And when she also was brutalized in that film, beaten by a gangster, they show it. I mean, they show her
Right.
face. So yeah, Betty went where very few people dare to go.
New England courage.
Yes, and I would say Mark was kind of, what was it, 1 or 2 films before Jezebel? Like it was on the
Right.
cusp.
Well, I
of-
think wasn't that the first thing that she did when she came back after her contract? was ended?
Probably.
I think they were finally like, okay, here's something that's got a little meat to it, and
Which, and I think she did have a very complex relationship with Jack Warner, which she later claimed was good despite their vicious fights in public, because they could have punished her, but they knew what they had. And instead she got rewarded for losing that lawsuit.
right. That's true.
Well, also, I think Jezebel, of course, was a huge turning point in her career. And William Wyler, she later said he was her favorite director, even though they had tons and tons of fights. But I think in Jezebel, he controlled her mannerisms. He was every bit as tough as she was. It was sort of like she met her match on the set of that movie. And I love costumes in films, of course, as well. One costume I have never gotten to see and would kill to see, let me know if you guys have it in the archive. I want to see that red dress in Jezebel.
They do have it at the Warner Museum. They have had it on display before.
Oh,
It's actually kind of a rust color like this. It doesn't
Oh.
look red at all.
In my head, I always imagined it the most scarlet red on the planet.
Right,
In my mind.
But for the camera, for some reason, and that's the thing too, some of the,
Wow.
after years of being stored, the fabric can change color or whatever.
but I'm glad it exists. That's great.
Oh, just that it
I haven't
exists
seen
makes
it
me
in a
happy.
while, but for the longest time, it was on display at the Warner Museum. They may, and they switch stuff out all the
Oh
time.
my gosh.
Next year is the 100th anniversary of Warner Brothers as well, so.
Mm.
Bring it back.
They're probably gonna do there's a few special things. I've heard there's a documentary in the works. Mark Vieira's working on a book as well,
Great.
so they're gonna definitely be celebrating that.
That's like a year-long streaming
Centenary.
series, like they had for
Right.
Paramount years ago. Yes.
That would be awesome.
That would be
We'll see.
amazing. Well, she was such a big part of that studio, such a driving
Oh,
force.
yeah, I mean, like they said, they used to call her the fifth Warner Brothers.
And Jezebel, it was a wonderful film, and her character is so unsympathetic in this movie, but you still like her, you still
Right.
care about her, even though, and I don't know about you guys, but I've always been a little confused about the ending because part of me thinks she was vicious through and through, and she went to Lazarette Island, spoiler alert, to Henry Fonda because she wanted to be the one with him. And then the other part of me is like, maybe she learned her lesson and this
Right.
was her way to
a little bit of
make
both.
amends to go to Lazarette Island with Press.
Right,
So I kind of always am confused if this was a real turnabout in her character or if this was her being her all the way to the end.
right.
Mm.
Leave it to the audience's imagination.
I remember hearing her talk about now Voyager and how she thought it's such a great movie, and boy, and then she gets to be half the glamour part, and then that she felt her character. She said, I didn't usually think about like what happened to them afterwards, but she did with that character that she would end up with Claude Rains.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
which she said,
interesting.
at least on an interview.
I love Paul Henry so much. I'm trying to get his daughter to do an episode with me someday. But I love that movie. They are so wonderful
Oh,
together.
yeah.
Crackling
Voyager is
chemistry.
just like-
Crackling.
I was thinking in modern day films, you don't see couples with that kind of chemistry. Like Kate and Leo in Titanic is the most recent example I can ever think of a screen duo that just had incredible and believable chemistry.
Right,
It seems in old Hollywood that happened all the time, and today it almost never seems to happen.
yeah, she did what, 2 movies with Cranberry, I
Deception,
think? Yes,
I think, too.
Deception, and then he directed her also.
Dead Ringer,
Yeah.
Mm.
yes. And she didn't want to, and Warner Brothers did not want to make Dark Victory. I saw some interview where Jack Warner said, all right, who wants to go see a girl who dies? And no one's
Right.
going to see this movie. And Betty fought to get that film made too. And of course it was a classic, or it is a classic, got her another Oscar nomination.
Yes.
Whenever we even had a simple headache in my family, we're like, I have Judith Traherne disease, and we just expect to die within 30 minutes.
Okay, so one year at the Turner Classic Film Festival, I was with my dear friend Beth. She's a New Englander, loves Betty, and had never seen Dark Victory. And so I was so excited that we were going to see it together on a huge screen at TCM. I was so excited. And right when Betty starts up the staircase, someone pulled the fire alarm at the Chinese 6, and we had to evacuate.
no.
And then they let us come back in, and then they finished the movie. But it's like the moment.
I was seeing Three Grows in Brooklyn at that very moment, and it was a crucial scene in there too. Yeah.
Like,
It was like the moment is gone now. So that was so
In terms of just moments, like even as we're sitting here talking, I'm seeing the moment in the letter. I think when she was shooting as she's walking. I wonder if that was exactly in the script. It is such brilliance. I want to watch that right now.
Love that movie.
Oh, so
I saw
good.
that at the last TCM festival at the Legion.
Oh.
And it's great to watch these movies on TCM, of course, or on home video, but there isn't anything like seeing Betty writ large on a
Right.
giant screen.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
that is just the way.
Oh, yeah. There's so many times when I go to the TCM festival, it's like, oh my God, I've seen this movie a million times, but never on the big screen. Like,
Exactly.
And
just have to see
I
it.
saw Sunset Boulevard yesterday with Nancy Olson at the Arrow, and I noticed that I've seen it 1,000 times, including in the theater, but noticed things that I've never seen before, and definitely with Bette Davis
Yeah,
movie.
that's so great.
Because
Love it.
PPM, they present us like 7 to 8 choices per time slot. And so I don't know about you
Right.
guys, but I joke that it's almost like a complicated football play. A
Oh,
tremendous
yeah.
amount of thought
Oh,
goes
my
into
God.
what I choose. I'm like, is this nitrate or not? Okay, is this in the tiny theater or not? Have I seen this on the big screen or not? Like there's a zillion different factors that
Oh,
lead
yeah.
to my decisions.
And frankly, for me, like when I look at the whole schedule every year, there has to be at the minimum, if there's not Katharine Hepburn, Bette Davis, Joan Crawford, at least one, this is a sham. Those are my three. I mean, there's so many
Right.
other actresses that I love, but those to me are the three. Those are mine. That's the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, or whatever.
Right.
The energy of seeing it with a live audience. When I was
Oh,
when I was in high school, I grew up originally outside of Dallas, Texas. There was a theater in oh gosh, it's somewhere in North Dallas, and they did a thing called the USA Film Festival there, and it's still I think it still goes on. And what they did, Texas is such a football macho place, which I am no interest in. And so on Monday nights when football was going on, they would show classic movies at these
Oh my
theaters.
Mm.
And so I begged my mom to drive me into North Dallas, and we saw All About Eve in a theater with the boys on a Monday night. And they were cheering, clapping, they knew every line. I was in heaven. I was like,
Oh,
I
so
found my
awesome.
place, because seeing it like that, you know,
Right.
with an audience that gets it, knows it, greatly appreciates
Nothing
it.
better
that
than
is
seeing
just-
that one with an audience.
Yeah, that script is
Oh, yeah.
amazing.
And isn't it crazy? Because I mean, that it was originally supposed to be Claudette Colbert, but she hurt her back.
Yeah, she had a skiing accident or some kind of injury to her back.
And people say because they thought Ann Baxter looked a lot like Claudette Colbert.
They had like the
that's-
same kind of hair. Too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But you know, I love Claudette Colbert, but you know, and I don't wish her ill with her back problems.
That's
But
right.
come on. And the
Yeah.
fact that she didn't, and that was the same year as Claire Swanson and Norman Desmond.
oh,
One
And
of
I
the
love
Oscar
Judy
races.
Holiday, but like, I don't. They should have just given 3 Oscars out that year.
oh my God, how was it? 3 Oscars,
Yeah,
all right, we're done.
Because
It's
those
gotta
were-
be.
I mean, Gloria Swanson and Bette Davis that year is 2 of the best performances ever put on film.
Those are ones for the ages.
Mhm.
Like for the ages. And I think Betty really cared about the Oscars. Like I think that meant a lot to her. Because you know how some performers they use it as a doorstop, they could care less.
Mhm.
Right.
For her, that was like lifeblood.
Oh
you know?
yeah, that meant you made it. You know?
Yeah.
And how much she wanted it for Baby Jane, and then the whole thing with Joan Crawford accepting it for Anne.
Yeah. And there's so much talk about their feud and stuff, but they made that film on such a tight budget and only a few weeks. So as
Yeah.
Betty said in one interview, they really didn't have time to
Right.
fight on the set of that movie because they were on such tight schedule. But I think they probably both, and again, I could be wrong, but they probably both realized the publicity value of digging at
Oh,
each other and
sure.
saying nasty crap because it's going to get them press, it's going to get them
Sure.
attention. People are going to eat it up with a spoon. You
Oh
know?
yeah.
So they probably recognized, all right, if I make fun of Joan, then that's going to go a long way for me. So I'm kind of wondering if that was a big part of it.
I wouldn't doubt, I mean, the myth of battling actresses. I mean, she did that. She had the same thing with Miriam Hopkins as well. I mean, they had sparks on screen, and you can kind of see the hate between them, even though they are so great together.
Well, in fairness to Miriam Hopkins, Betty did sleep with Miriam's husband. So I think Miriam has a pretty solid case for being upset.
Yes.
I've got to give it to Miriam. She has solid grounds.
And Cholula Bankhead too, wasn't there a feud? What's the film that Betty made that Cholula had done?
Little
Broadway?
foxes.
Yes.
Little foxes.
Yeah, and at one point the director told her, like, do it like Cholula, and of course that went over well.
Oh my God. Right.
Well, I heard Little Foxes was the end of her relationship with William Wyler because they had an affair on the set of Jezebel. And then he kind of considered that a fling during production and broke up with her and married someone else. And I think the blow to Betty's pride, maybe, they fought on the letter, but I've read that they fought bitterly during Little Foxes.
Oh, wow.
Mm.
And that was kind of the end of their
Still a
collaboration.
great movie. It probably fed into her evil character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a shame. I wish she would have made 10 films with William Wyler. I don't know. If I were in her shoes, I would have done anything on the planet he said
Right.
as a director because he was brilliant.
Yeah.
But-
Really good. Some of her best roles.
Yeah, I mean, she got Oscar nominated every time she made a film with him.
Well,
Wow.
she understood the value of a really good director, which not everyone did.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And she survived a lot of transitions. I mean, one thing that we often talk about is how some of these careers were 5, 10 years or whatever. But Betty, like Joan, like Hepburn, she was able to go from the very early pre-codes into the women's films of the 40s. When after the war, everything changed once again and women's roles changed, and Betty still found roles then. And then it's kind of a lot of peaks and valleys, but then she found her footing in the horror genre later on. It's like she was able to kind of ride these waves and transition to changing public taste, changing everything in the world, and continue to find work.
Yeah, I mean, she was in television as well. I mean, so many different roles back in the 50s and 60s. I mean, I saw her in an episode of Gunsmoke a couple of weeks ago on TV.
Wow.
You know, it's like
Oh,
it's
wow.
so surprising to see. I
You
love
mentioned
that.
her
You
on
know,
the
it's
set.
like, yeah, just to see these older actresses. I mean, getting work. I saw the other day. I was getting ready for work, and I kind of was flipping through the channels. Joan Blondell on an episode of Petticoat Junction. And I was just like, oh my God, look at Joan Blondell. And it's like, you know, 1967 or something like that. And she's still out there doing her work.
And
you
wasn't
know?
Betty supposed to be one of the leads in that show Hotel? But then
Yeah.
ironically, Ann Baxter ended up doing it.
Yeah, I think she got sick. She was ill
Mhm.
at that time or whatever. And then she just couldn't do so Ann Baxter stepped in. So
Had I met
Again,
yes.
Betty, she would have hated me, and you know why? I can't be around cigarette smoke. I have had lifelong allergies. I've had asthma. I've had all these sinus,
Oh my
like it
gosh.
makes me sick. So Betty would actually have totally hated me. She'd like, get her out of here.
she was
keeps me away
smoking
from
until
smoke.
the cancer
Oh my
diagnosis,
God.
whatever.
What's sad though about Betty is like when you see all, I remember as a kid seeing her like on Johnny Carson. And she is so painfully frail and
At the
thin,
end.
obviously
Yeah.
dying. And she's just sitting there, chain smoking. And I just almost wanted to be like, just pull a garbo and go away for a bit. Like, it just made me so sad that she couldn't give up the limelight. And until the day she died,
Right.
she had to be in
Well,
the
she
spotlight.
died. She was in Europe for a film festival.
The San Sebastian
Yeah.
Festival in Spain.
And they
Yeah,
flew her to Paris, and I think she died there.
at the American Hospital in Paris.
But if you want to, for me, the best interview, I watched it recently, was when she was on the whole episode of Dick Cavett in 1971. And she's still, you know, it's before she got really frail. And she's fantastic. I mean, making jokes with him that are like, you know, kind of sexualized jokes, but just talking about her career with such honesty. She just did not lie. So watch that. It's on YouTube, everyone, after the show.
Was that like in the 70s?
71.
Wow, nice.
There's a lot of good Betty stuff on YouTube. I have been geeking out on YouTube Betty Davis interviews all week.
Wow, that's cool. I'll have to check that out. haven't
Yeah,
seen
I mean,
that.
of course, his two-part with Katharine Hepburn. I mean, he was the one to be
Right, he
on
was the
those
one to
days
interview
because you
those
got
people.
long format.
Right, and he did interview Joan as well, I believe.
Oh,
Yeah.
Mid-60s. So I think that's might be on the Mildred Pierce, like an extra or something.
Okay.
Yeah, so anyway.
And she was the first woman she was only briefly president of the Motion Picture Academy for like a month or two.
Oh, why so little?
And well, I think from what I've read is that they sort of just wanted her to be a figurehead, because Betty being Betty, she's going to be like as a bull in a china closet. She's going to march in. I've got this idea, that idea. And I think they were just like wanting her to be more of a figurehead and not someone that's going to step in and run the show.
Good luck with that.
Good luck with that. And
Yeah.
also, it was the peak of her career. She's making tons of films. She probably had 5 minutes of free time. So, you know, I think she just thought this isn't worth my time if I can't really make serious change. And she was the first woman to get the American AFI Life Achievement Award.
I remember watching that. Fabulous. You know, and before we get into the memorabilia, I just went down to our basement and looked, because she has some wonderful books that she wrote, The Lonely Life and this and that. But you know what my favorite, well, these are great, but my favorite, I don't know if all of you know of Mother Goddamn. It started off as a biography of her, but then she became friendly with the writer, and they did this wonderful thing that I wish every biographer would do if their subject's still alive, where he wrote his book, and then she comes in a different color ink and red ink and says like, it didn't happen that way, or no, here's what happened the next day. Or,
Wow.
so you've never read this book?
What?
I think that was a nickname she had at Warner Brothers, and I loved her brooch as the WB.
Oh my gosh.
This is a great book. Find this online because her actual memoirs are fun too. And here she is. Yeah, that's towards the end. This is the one she was promoting on those shows.
That makes me sad.
Yeah.
Well, also the whole thing with her daughter Beadie, that's such a sad thing too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, because I mean, it was like a character assassination of her mom, who was sick, weak, frail, elderly, didn't need that.
Horrible.
And it just seems so vicious and so, like I just saw some interview where her son he said, I begged her not to do this. Please don't do this to mom. And she just,
Went right ahead.
Went right
Horrible.
ahead.
And I remember reading the book, which came out after Mommy Dearest. I'm like, it wasn't even that bad, you spoiled brat. I mean,
seriously.
sure, every mother is going to have some issues with their daughter. There's going to be stuff, and she was so betrayed by that, so deeply, deeply betrayed.
I don't think she ever got over that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's too bad. I mean, they must have offered her a ton of money to do that. It's like, we want you to basically assassinate your mom's character. Like,
Well, I'm sure maybe she saw how well Mommy Dearest did too. I was like, whoa, yeah.
right.
I'm sure that was part of it.
You know?
I always remember
Sure.
Beadie because she appears as the neighbor, the daughter of the neighbor in
Mhm.
Lady
Lady
Jane, and she's good. I mean, it's like funny to see their scenes together. But yeah,
Such a sad thing for Betty
Yeah.
to have at the end of her life.
You can't write the script of the end of your life sometimes, You
Yeah.
just gotta go with the flow.
I just kind of wish she could have pulled a Garbo, because again, to see her that sick and still out there, it just felt like, oh.
although that might have kept her alive longer.
That's true.
Being in
That's
front of the
true.
That's
camera.
why they're happy, So,
She was still with it. I mean, she was,
Mentally, yeah.
yeah, very much so.
Definitely.
always a star.
Always a star. So speaking of stars, can we see some memorabilia, Kenton?
Of course.
Because you have some amazing, by the way, some of you, if you watch Hollywood Kitchen, Kenton also collects on many stars, and he was on the Kay Francis episode where we made Kay's coffee mousse.
Yes. So this is probably my earliest piece. It doesn't really have Betty in the cover of it, but it's the window card for Cabin in the Cotton. It does have her name right there. This is the movie where she said, "I love to kiss you, but I just washed my hair."
Directed by Michael Curtiz, who we've also covered on Hollywood Kitchen.
that's
And also, I saw an interview where Betty said Curtiz hated her, and he would just say,
really?
"Lousy actress."
From that movie? Oh,
Yeah, and he didn't think she was sexy at all. He didn't like her.
I
And
thought
he
she
didn't,
was sexy as hell in that movie.
yes, I did too.
Oh,
I did
boy.
too. Oh
So
my
I have
gosh.
3 posters of Betty. This is one. This
They
is
will not be leaving this house.
and this on live.
Directed by John Huston with Olivia de Havilland,
One of
Patty
her,
McDaniel.
her bad girl roles.
Was Patty McDaniel in this one too?
She was.
Yes.
She was.
Oh, and Billy Bird.
Yeah.
Friends.
Now, she and Olivia were two Warner's gals that were good friends their whole lives, I believe.
Yes. Yes.
It kind of amazes me that they were able to be friends, since Betty was known for feuding with many other females, but I'm glad of it. I
She
love that they were
respected
friends.
talent, and she respected Olivia's winning that lawsuit.
Yeah,
Right.
Put them out of indentured servitude. That's
love
a great poster.
that's a
thank you
beautiful
so much.
poster.
Mounted on linen.
These
Yeah.
posters are like works of art to me. I mean, I know they were made for mass distribution and commercial purposes, but they're so, oh my God, they're such artistry.
So this is from one of my favorites.
It's
So
for me.
Yeah.
This is from The Great Lie. This movie is pure soap opera, but it brought Mary Astor a supporting actress Oscar.
Look at
Yes.
this gorgeous artwork and the great slogan there. Some things a woman has to lie about to a man.
Right?
That is so, I wish you guys could see in person how incredibly beautiful.
What
this
year was
poster
that?
is. Nice.
It's like 41. I think.
41, yeah.
I bet they put Mary Astor's name in smaller type than George Brown.
Right?
Oh, there's Patty McDaniel. At least she got on this one.
Patty's on the poster. Yay, I'm glad to see that.
That's
Yeah.
gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
Did you have to have these restored a little bit?
I actually have them put on linen, so
Mhm.
that's kind of my thing. A lot of them I get folded, and they come to me all folded up, and then I spend the money to put them on linen. So-
At Warner's, do they have an archive for like all the 6 sheets even and all this stuff, or?
They do have an archive. I haven't really seen their poster archive or not, but they do definitely have an archive. And this is from her last Warner film, the Beyond the Forest.
Nobody's as good as Bette Davis when she's bad.
I love it.
Love it. That is the ultimate tagline.
Yes.
Oh my
So those are the
gosh.
only posters that I
Fabulous.
collect that I have on Betty. I have plenty of lobby cards as well,
He
so
knows.
This is the only signed thing that I have of hers. This is from All About Eve. This is signed 8x10.
Where
Not to me, but yeah, I got this at auction a
the
long
dress
time
from the
ago.
play. What's that play called again?
Agent.
Agent.
Yes.
I'm probably gonna watch it when
I'm
I
so
leave
afraid.
today.
Sorry.
Yeah, let's keep our drinks out of the way.
So I collect on all kinds of, but mostly, movies that are my favorites. One of them is The Old Maid. So I have the
Great
title
one.
card for that. Another one of her great films from 1939. And these are scene cards from the same film. I have a couple of these.
Beautiful. And you just
Yeah.
got these from different sources?
Just different auctions online or whatever. The thing about a lot of these lobby cards from Warner Brothers in the late 30s, they put them on this paper that looks like linen. And as they age, they just get super brittle. So a lot of these have had to put on linen as well. So and then of course Now Voyager is like one of my favorites. So I have the title card for Now Voyager.
Monica Henry.
And then I've got some of the scene cards as well. So
Oh, do you have a complete set of Now Voyager?
I am missing one.
Gotta get
So
that.
there's always
Holy
one that
grail.
I'm always looking for. So, but luckily sometimes in like this, The Great Lie, that's the other
Gorgeous.
one of the poster. This one I got the title, but it was trimmed. So, but
wow.
still, beggars can't be choosers. Right?
Is there like a Bette Davis building at Warner Brothers?
All of their buildings are numbered, and it's the weirdest thing. They're
Come
not
on.
even in
Yeah,
numerical order. It's like I'm in building 135, and next to me is like building 69.
It's so fun.
It's so crazy.
Like in Sunset Boulevard, which I saw yesterday, Norma Desmond says that she built Paramount. I mean, Bette Davis built sound stages.
Seriously.
Oh yeah, totally.
They should be naming them either after her or after her movies or both.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And there she is with Mary doing Battle for that supporting actress Oscar.
Okay, Leslie Apple is commenting, by the way, Wyler told Betty not to do it like Tallulah and Little Foxes, but she wouldn't listen to him. He thought that Tallulah's interpretation was too extreme.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, interesting. Thank you, Leslie.
Yeah, I thought I remembered that they were trying to make her do it like her, but
This is my only card from the letter.
Ooh.
Oh, such a good movie. Closest I think Betty got from the wall, really,
And then another one of my favorites is Old Acquaintance, which is her second film with Miriam Hopkins.
Is that the one she shoves her in the
Yes,
chair and then tries to strangle her?
Yeah, it's was remade in the 80s as Rich and Famous. It's the last
That's right.
Yeah.
George Cukor
In
directed.
that movie, yeah.
So I actually do have a complete set of these cards. There's a title card and then
Nice.
7 scene cards as well.
They could have done a feud series about Miriam and Betty.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean the fireworks, and I love this last card of them. They're toasting.
Oh yeah, that's the famous picture. I love that. Now, in all the lobby cards, they take black and white shots and colorize them, or do you think sometimes?
Yeah, I think that's how these are all like scene stills, and then they kind of hand tint them. Or these are Stolen Life, where she plays a double. Or twins.
Do you ever get any foreign versions of her films?
I have, I see stuff like that up for auction. There's other things that I have foreign versions of, but just depends. But then I have Mr. Skeffington. That's my only Mr. Skeffington card. It's great because it's her with all of her suitors waiting for her.
I love that movie. Now I remember hearing that she was in a difficult time in her life then and was very difficult on set. I remember reading about that.
It was right after her second husband died.
Right.
And I'm sure she was just out of sorts at the time.
This book has more of her kind of later stuff. Probably the things that why she left work, like Winter Meeting. This one I have a complete set for. I literally got like the whole 8 cards just
What is that?
One Winter Meeting.
Oh yeah.
So I don't even think I've seen this film actually, but I know Jim Davis is later became Jock Ewing on Dallas. I think this was his Warner debut, maybe.
It seems like the quality of her films once again took a nosedive when she came back from having BD.
Well,
Right.
you know what I loved, and I remember seeing it as a kid, is Pocketful of Miracles.
Oh, yeah.
And Margaret's first movie where she's her daughter, and
Mhm.
I mean, one of Frank Capra's last film. I love that movie.
June Bride, I don't think her and Robert Montgomery, from what I heard, got along too well,
Mm.
but he came over from MGM and did that. And then, of course, the camp classic, Betty, Beyond the Forest.
You get that rights thing settled, 'cause that's gonna be the next
Right.
Rocky Horror Picture Show if they can get the
Yes,
stuff.
right.
We'll all walk along with this group.
Oh my, can you imagine a midnight screening at TCM of Beyond the Forest?
Yes,
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Oh my
yes,
God,
please.
that would bring the house down, really would.
And then I have one card from the Star, which that's a scene in the May Company, which is now the Academy Museum.
Ah,
So where she's telling off those old birds.
and Natalie Wood is her little daughter.
And then I have some from Dead Ringer as well.
She finally
Her
has a
horror,
twin
her
movie.
horror years.
That's her, when she's the twin, right?
Yeah, she's the twins in Dead Ringer. And they have some downtown LA locations. They shot it at West Adams Cemetery right over
Oh,
here
wow.
at the beginning of it. There's some-
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
I wonder
We
what
gotta keep that
cemetery
there.
that was.
Yeah, it's West
Came
Adams.
off the
She gets
freeway.
right off the bus.
You mean
right
the
at-
Rosedale one?
Yeah, Rosedale. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Rosedale.
You
Yeah,
mean
she.
Rosedale,
Yeah, it's right at the beginning of the film.
Where Anna McWong is.
Yeah.
Really?
And Hattie McDaniel.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah, so that's pretty much the lobby cards. My one last little piece, we shared this, I think, at the during the K Francis as well. I have a dressing room door or parking space nameplate.
That is heaven.
Oh,
So,
love it.
How'd you get that?
That was a friend of my sister's had it in his garage, and I literally he had this one, Joseph Cotton, Agnes Moorehead, and Joan Crawford.
Whoa. Like,
And I was like,
Street
what
Road?
did it? Yeah, that's what I think they're from. And I just said, what are you doing with these? He's like, you can have them.
Oh,
So it's just like
Every door in
okay,
Ken's
this is
apartment
probably-
is-
Yeah, they're literally in the hallway. I have like 4 doors
So
in
you-
my bedroom.
was it a psychological thing of like, who should be on the bedroom door? Who should be on?
Betty's on the bedroom
Oh, of
door.
course.
That's Joan on the bathroom.
Betty is laughing in heaven.
Right. Yeah. And Joseph Cotton on the linen closet. And
Of course, Joan would be on her hands and knees scrubbing the bathroom floor, so she'd probably love it.
Okay.
That's thank God you got it for your friend, like, before it goes away.
right. Yeah, I mean you never know. So
That's
Wow.
fantastic.
And I saw this interstitial on TCM that I thought was really cool about her friendship sort of with Meryl Streep. And how Meryl
Oh.
was really influenced by Bette Davis. And
didn't she write her, I feel like?
yeah, and she wrote her a letter and they never got to act
so
together,
sweet.
but how I love exploring sometimes the connections between Hollywood past
Right.
and Hollywood present. And I
That's
think
so
it's really
awesome.
cool.
I do worry sometimes because of Baby Jane and because of her outsized personality that Betty doesn't get the acting credit she deserves, I mean, although I think she is great in Baby Jane, but just like that horror thing, because I just think she was, in a different way than the others, but like one of the finest actresses ever in the
Yeah.
history of movies.
For sure.
So
That's the kind of the danger of some of the camp stuff is it just brands them as like these caricatures of
Mhm.
who they used to be. And it's kind of
Sure.
cruel in
Yeah.
a way because I mean, I had a lot of interesting conversations with friends when Feud came out because I had a friend who threw Feud parties and every week we'd all make food and go to her house and watch Feud together. But the thing is, on one hand, there were a lot of historical inaccuracies in the show. I don't think women spoke like that at the time. Like, we need to support each other. Like, there were certain lines in the show, I'd be like, no, they weren't talking like that in
Right.
the 96. But I felt they kind of got to the truth of the sexism, the ageism, the poor
Oh,
treatment
sure.
that they endured. And it's heartbreaking that they couldn't have been friends. They couldn't have bonded because Lord knows they had a lot of shared experiences that not everybody has
That's
in the
for
world.
sure.
And and even though I had issues with the show, I still did enjoy it. And my
did
social
too.
media was blown up for weeks with Betty and Joan. And I told one friend, I said, look, if one person out there watches All About Eve or Jezebel or Mildred Pierce
Right.
or any of these movies because of Feud did its job.
Right.
Like that was kind of my attitude toward it. Like it put them out there in a huge way that they hadn't been in a
Yeah.
long time.
It was polarizing at the time, but I liked it at the risk of making people hate me. And you know what I thought was the funniest thing? I always wondered, oh, did this really happen? I hope it did. The way Susan Sarandon as Bette Davis kept calling Jessica Lange as Joan Crawford Lucille.
Yes.
There were some subtle touches in there because I never
Little
really
things.
explained it.
Right.
That like I hope that it happened, but yeah, because most of those recreations, as you know, or those fictional versions of real life, I despise. But I don't know,
Yeah.
that touched me.
It did me too. Like the last episode, I was so emotional because again, they both struggled in a man's world. They were both actresses, the same time period, both had 4 husbands, both Oscar winners, both had
So
troubled
many
children they
similarities.
adopted. I mean, just if you look at the path, you know, so many reasons they should have been like, let's have coffee and talk about how hard all this is. Let's talk about
Right.
what we're dealing with. But they couldn't, because I feel like we live in a world that always pits women in general against each other.
Sure.
And they were such different types. I mean, I
Mhm.
can't see Betty playing any of Joan's movies and vice versa. They were totally different types of actresses and people,
Yeah,
really, you know?
that's for sure.
So there's space for both, you know? I don't get why there has to be this one or the other mentality.
Right.
Like a lot of times in the Hollywood fan world, I don't know if you guys noticed this, there's always are you Chaplin or Keaton? Are you Boris or Bela? Like,
Right.
I'm like, I love them all. And I
Yeah.
apologize for
Right.
nothing. Like,
Right.
you know,
Right.
that's my attitude toward it.
Like the 3 I named, Hepburn, Crawford, and Davis, are so different from each other, and they each bring different things
Oh, yeah.
to the table. So yeah. And I was also glad in Feud, frankly, that because even though we can recognize Mommy Dearest for what it is and Faye Dunaway's talent for what it is, just to have a more poignant portrayal of Joan Crawford by Jessica Lange, I
Oh, yeah.
appreciated it. So that to me was worth having the film.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I kind of need to rewatch that now. I feel like I haven't seen it since it first came out.
Yeah.
It's like revisited.
It'd be
maybe.
interesting to do a
Be
review.
a good binge worthy over the holiday weekend
Mm-hmm.
or whatever.
Have you found that because of the pandemic, it almost feels like our memories are kind of a lot harder? Sometimes I feel like I have trouble remembering things, and I'm like, so much has happened to me in the last couple of years. I
But
need
every
to-
line all about Eve I can still remember. When we're old and have dementia, we'll be spouting lines.
the Bette Davis retirement home.
Right.
Writers should be said for years.
Somebody was talking about some Margot, somebody.
Yeah. Oh God, Thelma Ritter's lines in that film, I mean, every single one. I couldn't get into the girl in 2.5 hours.
Right.
Wright Schreiner, who is a costume collector here in Hollywood, he has the fasten your seatbelts dress.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, I
boy.
modeled for him before, and the first time I ever modeled for him, he took me into a room in his house, the whole room, Travis Banton, Adrian, Edith Head, and he left me alone in there, and he came back in like 10 minutes later, and I was sitting on the bed crying, and he's like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" I was like, "I can't stand you."
Oh my God.
It's gonna be okay,
Don't get your tears on the dress.
Right.
but it was just
Wow.
me in a room. Yes, in Hollywood Kitchen.
Yes,
Do
you
that
did.
in 20
To wear anybody famous?
I
Well,
got
that
to
was
wear
good.
a new kind of love dress that Edith had made for Joanne Woodward
Mm.
in a movie with Otis.
Nice.
I got to wear that, and then the second time I worked for him, I wore a dress that Tracy Ullman wore in a Woody Allen movie.
Okay.
And then the Cinémathèque Française in Paris, they have the dress that Anne Baxter wore in All About Eve when she accepted the Sarah Citizens Award.
Ooh.
And I was with my French friend, and I told him, I said, "I'll catch up with you later. I need time alone with this dress."
Yeah.
And Joanne was like, okay, 'cause
That's
it was like seeing the holy grail for people
Oh,
like
yeah.
us.
Right.
You know? It's just,
Get that back in the United States. How did I have it?
well,
Okay.
Hollywood's
True.
so much there, though.
True.
I mean, I love the French.
And I love the Cinémathèque there. I used to go there. all
Oh
the
my
time.
gosh, it's amazing.
Wow. I love all those costumes. Just love looking at them. I mean, it's, my friend Jeff actually just texted me this morning. They've swapped out a bunch of the costumes at the Academy Museum again.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Okay.
he just sent me a picture of they just put up the like a headpiece of Garbo's from Mata Hari.
Ooh.
Like, I'm like, oh, I gotta go back.
I'm glad they're doing that. I was there
Yeah.
one time when they had just changed them all.
Well,
Yeah.
the thing with the Jezebel dress for me, and the reason I want to see it, and I hope I get to see it when the celebration happens, is that dress is like a character in the movie.
Totally.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not just a memorable costume. That dress is the reason Preston left her. That is the
Sure.
reason she was scandalized. Like that dress is a turning point in that film.
Yeah. And like you, when I think of that scene that I saw first as a young kid, I literally see the dress as red, like the jacket in Schindler's List or something, like they colorized it, but of course it never was.
But in our
And,
minds.
yeah, I see it as red in a black and white scene.
Yeah, it's totally this, I know, I was shocked when I saw it, it's almost like a rust brown color, like, and just the way the camera picks it up, and of course they tell you it's red, so you have no reason not to think it isn't, so.
She's so great in that scene too, when she's suddenly ashamed or wants to get out of there.
Right.
Oh,
Such great,
So good.
so good.
I love that movie so much. That was my gateway drug for Betty. So always have a special place in my heart for Jezebel.
Awesome.
Yes. So I will definitely. Will you keep me posted on the Warner Brothers 100
Of course,
activities?
yeah,
Because
I will.
I'd love to do some more Hollywood Kitchens for Warner Brothers 100.
Yeah.
We haven't done a both the episode yet. I mean, I've got a lot of stuff to do.
Olivia de
that'd be
Havilland.
good.
Olivia,
Yeah.
if we can
Oh,
do
you
that,
have?
just-
Yes.
hey, I'm happy
There's
to
so
drink
many.
from that well any day. So,
Right.
maybe we could do a Cagney, a Bogart.
That'd be awesome.
There's other Betty recipes too.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, how many of these Hollywood cookbooks have you come across?
Oh
And,
gosh.
I mean, they probably put them out every year, right, or?
Tons, and not only that, but because of Media History, I forget the URL, but Media History Digital Library, I can search all the fan magazines and read, because a lot of these fan
Okay.
magazines, they wanted to make the recipes and the stars like accessible to the normal average
Right,
American
right.
woman,
Mhm.
whatever. So a lot of them would have cooking columns or columns about Betty Davis at home and that kind of
Right.
stuff. So there's a lot of recipes I pulled out of fan magazines for Hollywood Kitchen from that
Wow.
database. So
That's awesome.
there's a lot more Betty for us in the future, I think, for
Oh,
sure,
cool.
definitely.
Okay,
Let's see if we have any questions here on Facebook. Let's see.
Lots of comments.
Ruth, thank you for watching us.
Hi, Ruth.
Shout out to Ruth.
Just back from the TCM crew.
That's right. I was having total FOMO looking online every day.
The shots of Ruth with her red gloves, that was Bette Davis worthy.
Oh my gosh, yes, it so was. Gary Songer saying Betty was my mom's favorite actress. When she first got a VCR, she'd tape her movies onto blank tapes. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, the questions are there's not a ton of questions popping up, but sometimes I log off and then they'll pop up way later. So if we don't get to them, like the three of us will definitely get online later and answer your questions there. Krista Lawler is saying Betty and Robert Montgomery did not get along, but Betty did get along with Elizabeth Bob Montgomery's daughter.
Oh, interesting. They should have had her on
they
Bewitched.
didn't work together, did they? I don't think.
I think so.
So, and then Joan Simmons Stone says Dead Ringer with Monica Henry was directed by Paul Henry.
Oh, that's right.
And
Monica's in that movie.
Yeah, she's the maid to Betty's rich sister.
Oh, that's right.
I'm trying to get Monica to do one of these with me.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah,
We will not ask B.D. Hyman, however.
Yes. Monica wants me to, she wants me to do these like really complicated Viennese pastries, and she sent me the recipe. And then I sent it to my friend Mary Stanford, who I collaborate with a lot. And Mary's like, Carrie, that's really
Just
intense.
Paint the
Like,
phyllo with butter. It'll be fine. You can do it.
great.
Right.
I'm afraid you're gonna get in a lot of trouble if you try some of these. So I don't know, but Monica, if you're
Maybe you
watching,
could, like pre-tape the cooking part of the recipe or whatever.
Right.
you
Right?
know?
Stop. Throw away the disaster.
like 10 hours of me just ripping my hair out. It's Viennese
Wondering why you're
pastries.
sweaty in each scene that
Right.
comes more than the one before.
It's Viennese pastries. That's
Maybe
a real.
Monica can make these.
Right. But anyway, so any final thoughts on Betty? Or there's so much to talk about. I feel like she's one of those stars that was so complicated, on screen, off screen, had a fascinating life. Like we could be here for days talking about her, you know?
I remember seeing her at maybe a Barbara Walters interview where they went to her gravesite. Is it Forest Lawn?
Yeah, Forest Lawn, Hollywood
And her
Hills.
mother was already there, but there was a space for her. And Barbara Walters asked, well, what do you want on your tombstone? And she said, she did it her way. And I wondered, have you been there?
I
wondered-
have.
What's
She
up?
did
It
it
is
the
what's
hard
up.
way.
She did it the hard way, right.
You know, it's funny, when we were in lockdown here in LA, and it was really bad, Darren Barnes and his husband Eric, and my friend Jack Fields, we would all meet at Betty Davis's grave, and
Aw.
we would eat Del Taco, because it's like the only thing open. And I used to call it lunch with Betty and the boys. And we would all sit 6 feet apart in front of Betty eating
Aw.
Del Taco, and that was like our big entertainment.
Right.
Now you will add Cranberry and Mousse to the.
Right.
To my visits to Betty Davis.
Oh my gosh. I know, there's something about going to the cemetery that's just so I just love it. I love going there and seeing all of the graves of famous people and just, it's just like calming. There's something
Yeah.
very peaceful and just, I love, like, when I saw the cemetery getting off the pier, I was like, oh my God, what cemetery is this? Wonder who's buried in there, like, I'm
Oh,
sure there must
yeah.
be some
Yeah.
famous
That's the
people.
one, you need to go to.
Yeah.
I love doing that, so it's just kind of like a weird.
Also got.
Look who you're talking to.
Oh, I know.
Look who you're talking to.
Cemetery queen, and I love cemeteries too.
Well, I think about when I think about visiting celebrity graves and cemeteries, I did not get to meet Betty in this life. Our paths
Right.
never crossed. But being at her grave is the closest I get to being with her.
Sure.
And then also I feel like this is where her earthly journey came to an end. Like
Right.
this is the period or the exclamation mark at the end of her sentence.
Right.
So I feel like there's something kind of profound about
Sure.
standing where that journey came to an end.
Mhm.
Like Betty Davis, I mean, Judy Garland's on my tour, at Hollywood Forever. I've had people walk in there and just start crying like that.
Oh, I'm
Or
sure.
walk in
sure.
there and just start singing because this is the spot where now that earthly journey
Right.
ends. So it's very moving. It's very, and
Yeah.
I love how Betty is on a hillside and she's pretty much overlooking Warner Brothers for all of eternity. So
Perfect.
there's something so perfect about she's got those big blue eyes on you guys forever,
Right. Mhm.
And that seems so fitting and so appropriate in a lot of ways.
For sure.
Where's Jack Warner? Do you have him?
I don't, he's not home forever. I don't know. I have to look up findagrave.com and figure out where Jack Warner is. That's a good question.
I hope she's over him if he's the.
That would be very much like Betty to be like, oh, I'm of you. Oh,
Yeah. I guess I'm higher.
Well, guys, it's been a wonderful discussion. I'm so happy I finally got to Betty Davis for an episode. And
Thanks for including me.
And try this for Thanksgiving. It's-
yeah,
Yeah, it is
Thank
actually
you,
very
Betty.
tasteful.
of mine. So I loved it. To everybody watching, Kenton, thank you so much. Danny, thank
My
you.
pleasure.
And thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Please stay tuned for more food, fun, and film history from Hollywood Kitchen.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
See you all.